Biafra Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ngozi Orabueze has reported Finland to world news, accusing them of humiliating Simon Ekpa just to please Nigeria terrorist government. Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the self-declared United States of Biafra, was arrested in Finland before the official declaration of Biafra independence on November 29, 2024. Biafra was an independent nation from 1967 to 1970 before a brutal war with Nigeria. The same issues of marginalization and persecution continue today. The independence was declared in Finland while simultaneous activities were held in Biafra, where a governance structure exists with 40 states, administrators, and a homeland government. Nigeria is considered one of the deadliest places for Christians, with over 10,000 killed, including brutal attacks and mass graves. The Nigerian government allegedly supports jihadists by reintegrating terrorists into the military and police. The Nigeria government has systematically promoted Islamic rule, integrating Nigeria into the IOC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, without Christian consent. Biafra is seeking international recognition and has support from exile governments like Eritrea and Ambazonia. They are following legal steps through the UN and African Charter to gain legitimacy. Biafra representatives attended Donald Trump's inauguration, while Nigeria president was not invited. The US recently cut $1.2 billion in aid to Nigeria due to human rights abuses. Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, remains in Nigerian detention despite a UN order for his release. Finland is holding Simon Ekpa under alleged Nigerian influence. Unlike 1967 to 1970, global awareness of Biafra's struggles has increased, reducing the likelihood of another war. The Nigerian government allegedly sponsors killings in Biafra to suppress self-determination efforts. Biafrans and Nigerian Christians are urged to resist oppression and seek self-determination under international law. Despite suppression, Biafra remains resolute in its pursuit of freedom. I want to share with you a story that has been on my mind lately, a story full of history, struggle, controversy, and hope. It is a story about a movement for self-determination, about a people fighting for recognition and freedom in the face of oppression. I recently came across news that stirred my emotions and made me think about the deep wounds of the past and the challenges of the present. This story involves Biafra, a region with a tumultuous history and its ongoing struggle for independence, a struggle that has now taken an international twist. A few weeks ago, I learned that the Deputy Prime Minister of Biafra, Ngozi Orabueze, had officially reported Finland to the global media for what she described as an act of humiliation against Simon Ekpa. Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the self-declared United States of Biafra, had been detained by Finnish authorities just before the official declaration of Biafra's independence on November 29, 2024. The charge, as many observers believe, was a pretext designed to please the Nigerian government. A government that, according to many in the Biafran movement, has been oppressing its own people and supporting extremist elements. I found myself drawn into this story because it touched on so many aspects that are both heart-wrenching and inspiring. You see, Biafra is not just a name on a map, it is a symbol of a long struggle for justice and self-determination. The history of Biafra stretches back to the period between 1967 and 1970, when it was an independent nation. During those years, Biafra fought a brutal war with Nigeria, a war that left deep scars, memories of marginalization, and a legacy of persecution that still echoes today. Even though that war ended decades ago, the issues that led to it have not disappeared. Many believe that the same patterns of discrimination and abuse continue in modern Nigeria, and that is why the call for Biafran independence has been renewed with such passion. The Declaration of Independence in November 2024 was held in Finland, a detail that surprised many observers. People asked, Why Finland and not the homeland itself? The answer, as explained by Biafran officials, is rooted in the practical challenges they face. Even as the declaration took place in Finland, there were parallel activities unfolding within Biafra itself. There exists a governance structure on the ground, complete with 40 states, local administrators, and a homeland government that has been working tirelessly to secure the rights and safety of the indigenous people. By declaring independence in Finland, Biafran leaders were not abandoning their homeland. Rather, they were using every available channel, both on the ground and abroad, to rally international support and recognition for their cause. The arrest of Simon Ekpa, however, cast a long shadow over these celebrations. According to reports, he was taken into custody by Finnish authorities a week or two before the official declaration, and many in the Biafran community saw this as an act meant to disrupt their efforts. Simon Ekpa's detention is seen not as a matter of legal procedure, but as a politically motivated action, one that is believed to have been orchestrated with the influence of the Nigerian government. In many ways, it was a grim reminder of the lengths to which powerful interests will go to suppress voices calling for justice and freedom. As I delved deeper into the story, I learned more about the context that has shaped this struggle. Nigeria, it seems, has earned a notorious reputation as one of the most dangerous places for Christians. There have been reports of over 10,000 Christians killed, victims of brutal attacks that have often left entire communities in mourning. In some cases, mass graves have been discovered, and the violence has been systematic and unrelenting. Critics argue that the Nigerian government has not only allowed these atrocities to continue, but has, in fact, played an active role in enabling them. They point to policies that reintegrate former terrorists into the military and police forces, a move that many believe is designed to strengthen the government's grip on power and suppress any dissent. There is a growing sentiment among many Nigerians and international observers that the Nigerian government has systematically promoted Islamic rule within the country. Without the consent of the Christian population, Nigeria has been integrated into the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, a development that has only deepened the rift between the state and a large segment of its citizens. For many Biafrans and Nigerian Christians alike, these actions are not just a matter of political maneuvering. They are seen as an existential threat to their identity, their safety, and their right to live freely in their own land. Amidst this turmoil, the struggle for Biafran independence has taken on a broader international dimension. Biafra is now seeking recognition from the international community, following a legal path through institutions like the United Nations and frameworks such as the African Charter. In a bold move that signaled their determination to be heard on the global stage, Biafra's representatives even attended Donald Trump's inauguration. This was a striking contrast to the Nigerian president, who was notably absent from such events. Furthermore, the United States, responding to ongoing human rights concerns, recently cut $1.2 billion in aid to Nigeria, a move that many saw as an implicit endorsement of the grievances raised by Biafrans and Nigerian Christians. The narrative of Simon Ekpa's arrest and the declaration of independence in Finland is not just a news item. It is a chapter in an ongoing saga of resistance and resilience. I remember watching a video interview in which a well-known figure in the counter-jihad movement, Robert Spencer, was present. Spencer, an American anti-Muslim author and blogger, was known for his outspoken views and his influence within certain circles. During the interview, Spencer raised pointed questions about why the Declaration of Independence was made in Finland instead of in Biafra itself. He also questioned what concrete steps were being taken to ensure that the new state could exist as a free and independent nation. The conversation was intense and filled with passion. One of the moments that struck me was when the interviewee, who identified himself as Dr. Ngozi, the Chief of Staff and Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, explained that the declaration in Finland was not an isolated event. While they were in Finland, there were already coordinated efforts taking place in the homeland. In each of the 40 states of Biafra, local administrators and community leaders were working together to create a seamless governance structure that could support the newly declared nation. Dr. Ngozi explained that this dual approach was essential because it allowed them to maintain a strong connection with their roots while also leveraging international support. The interview also touched upon the arrest of seaman Ekpa. It was revealed that his detention by Finnish authorities occurred before the Declaration of Independence and was not a consequence of the declaration itself. This distinction is important because it highlights that the arrest was a preemptive move, likely designed to cast a shadow over the entire process of self-determination. The arrest was widely seen as an effort to delegitimize the movement by portraying its leaders as provocateurs. Dr. Ngozi made it clear that the charges against Simon Ekpa were baseless, and that his detention was nothing more than a politically motivated act aimed at undermining the aspirations of the Biafran people. The interview went on to discuss the broader context of violence and persecution in Nigeria. Dr. Ngozi recounted harrowing accounts of how Christians have been systematically targeted in the country. There was mention of incidents where individuals, simply for expressing their faith or making statements about their religious beliefs, were brutally attacked. I recall one particularly disturbing account of a young woman who was stoned to death simply for claiming that Jesus had helped her. Such stories, repeated over and over again, paint a picture of a nation where the rule of law seems to have been supplanted by mob violence, and where state policies have all but abandoned the protection of its citizens. What is even more troubling is the alleged role of the Nigerian government in these atrocities. There are claims that by reintegrating individuals with links to extremist groups into the military and police forces, the government is actively facilitating the persecution of certain groups. This policy of reintegration, rather than disarmament and reform, has been criticized as a way to bolster the state's power while simultaneously stifling any dissent. For many observers, it appears as though Nigeria is not just failing to protect its citizens, but is in some ways complicit in their suffering. As I listened to these accounts, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of sadness and outrage. The stories of violence, of communities living in constant fear, and of leaders being silenced by arbitrary arrests are not just headlines. They are the lived experiences of real people. And at the heart of it all is the struggle for self-determination, the struggle for a place where people can live in peace, practice their faith freely, and govern themselves without external interference. Throughout the interview, Dr. Ngozi stressed the importance of international support in this struggle. Biafra is not merely asking for sympathy, it is asking for concrete actions that will help secure its future as an independent nation. The movement is following every legal and diplomatic procedure available. They are working within the framework of international law and are engaging with organizations like the United Nations and the African Union. Their goal is to obtain formal recognition as an independent state, a status that would not only validate their struggle, but also provide them with the necessary backing to build a stable and secure society. There is a powerful symbolism in the fact that Biafra's representatives were invited to Donald Trump's inauguration. This gesture, however small it might seem in the grand scheme of international politics, is a clear sign that the voices of the oppressed are beginning to be heard. It is a signal that the international community is increasingly aware of the human rights abuses and the systematic marginalization that has plagued Nigeria for decades. The invitation also stands in stark contrast to the silence that has often greeted the suffering of Nigerian Christians and Biafran nationals. It is a reminder that even in a world filled with conflict and controversy, there are those who stand up for what is right. The story of Biafra's struggle is not without its complexities and internal challenges. Within the movement itself, there have been debates and disagreements about strategy, leadership, and the best path forward. I recall that during the interview, questions were raised about the relationship between the various factions within the movement. For instance, there was a discussion about the connection between Simon Ekpa, who is currently detained in Finland, and another prominent figure, Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Nnamdi Kanu, despite being a well-known figure in the struggle for Biafran independence, has been in detention for years, even though the United Nations had ordered his release. This situation has led to a sense of frustration among many supporters, who see the detention of their leaders as part of a broader pattern of state repression. The internal dynamics of the movement are further complicated by the harsh realities on the ground in Nigeria. While the leadership in exile is busy engaging with the international community, life for many in Biafra remains perilous. Reports continue to emerge of massacres, of people being attacked in their homes, and of communities living in constant fear of violence. The stark contrast between the determined declarations made in places like Finland and the brutal realities faced by everyday people in Nigeria underscores the enormous challenges that lie ahead.
I see. And so I understand, however, that immediately upon the Declaration of Independence, the Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, Simon Ekpa, was arrested in Finland. Is that correct?
No, actually it was done before the declaration, just about a week or 2 weeks before all Biafrans assembled in Finland. The Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa, was arrested by the Finnish authorities. It happened before the declaration, not after.
Is he still in custody? Thank you for being here. I have to tell you right off, though, there's quite a bit of controversy about this. And so I thought, why don't we address this right away and clear the decks. In the first place, I wanted to emphasize that I, of course, am not Biafran, obviously, and I am here speaking about this issue because of the connection of Biafra and its independence to the persecution of Christians. So I'm not endorsing any group. I'm not endorsing any group either. But many people are upset. And the problem on Twitter, or X, is that you can't really tell who these people are, or if they are who they claim to be. But some of them are saying you are not who you claim to be. And so could you please, in the first place, tell us who you are claiming to be and why we should pay attention?
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert Spencer. It's not about me claiming to be. I'm not claiming to be anything. I'm going to let you and whoever is listening know who I am. My name is Dr. Ngozi Orabueze. I'm the Chief of Staff and the Deputy Prime Minister to the newly declared United States of Biafra.
Thank you. And now, because I'm sure you're aware, in the United States and also in the West in general, there is a great deal of ignorance about Nigeria, about Biafra, about West Africa in general. Could you please fill us in about what is Biafra, what is the United States of Biafra, and what you were trying to do and why?
Thank you so much for that question. The United States of Biafra was a nation between 1967 and 1970. We were an independent nation. And we fought a brutal war with Nigeria between that period. At that time, we had our leader, Emeka Odumegwu Ojukwu. So, after that war between 1967 and 1970, when the war ended, the persecutions, the problems that existed at that period still existed to date. Problems such as marginalization, the killing of Christians, the lack of freedom, so many things going on against the indigenous people of Nigeria, of which Biafra, United States of Biafra, is one of them. So all this while, we were thinking there'll be a change. Several leaders in the past have thought there'll be a shift in making Nigeria one nation. but over the years, it has proved abortive based on several things that have been going on that have made the life of an indigenous Nigeria a risk. Let me just put it that way. So, on November 29th, 2024, United States of Biafra, all Biafra indigents from across the world, we gathered in Finland, in Latin Finland, to redeclare the United States of Biafra. We've conducted a self-referendum where over 50 million Biafrans have voted to exit Nigeria. We have met all the criteria as an independent nation, which we had before actually, between 1967 and 1970. So we have to redeclare that state in November last year. So that is where Biafra stands right now. We are a sovereign nation with a government in exile and a government in homeland with 40 states in Biafra territory. So that is where we are right now.
Thank you. Now, let me ask you though, you said that the Declaration of Independence was made in Finland, and so obviously it was not made in Biafra. What is the status of your movement inside Biafra itself?
Okay, so it was a concurrent event because we already have an established structure inside Biafra. We have the 40 state administrators whom we call governors right now. We have 15 county in each of the state, and then we have the districts and we have the wards. So while we were in Finland declaring the United States of Bafra, there were activities also in homeland in all the 40 states of the Biafra doing almost similar things that we were doing. So we have a very strong relationship between the United States of Biafra government from the Biafra Republic government in exile and the homeland de facto government. We work together.
I see. And so I understand, however, that immediately upon the Declaration of Independence, the Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, Simon Ekpa, was arrested in Finland. Is that correct?
No, actually it was done before the declaration, just about a week or 2 weeks before all Biafrans assembled in Finland. The Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa, was arrested by the Finnish authorities. It happened before the declaration, not after.
Is he still in custody?
He is.
Oh my. And I find that interesting, especially in light of the fact that another group, the indigenous people of Biafra, its leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is also in prison. And what is the relationship between your group and his?
Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Our Prime Minister for the United States of Biafra is Simon Ekpa. That is the relationship.
Well, I hope that Biafra will be able to proceed in a manner that is not done in by any internal factions. In any case, can you please explain to us what is the relationship between this Declaration of Independence and this very newly independent state and the persecution of Christians that has been ongoing in Nigeria?
Thank you so much for that question. The persecution of Christians in Nigeria has been very troublesome. It has been very, very sad. The recent IRF summit that happened in Washington, D.C., Nigeria was declared as one of the deadliest places for Christians to live, with a report of over 10,000 Christians killed in Nigeria. So we have a country where they practice two laws: Sharia law in the northern part of Nigeria, and then the secular law in the other parts of Nigeria. And if you are a Christian born in the northern part of Nigeria, you are forced to live by the Sharia rules. You may remember the case of Deborah, the undergraduate was stoned to death just because she made a statement to the effect that Jesus Christ helped me. And then the Muslim extremists around her were able to pursue her, drag her out from the teacher's office where she went to, and they stoned her to death and they burned her. This is just one incident. There are several incidences where Christians are murdered and buried in mass graves in Nigeria because the Nigerian state has a policy to reintegrate and rehabilitate non-terrorists into the Nigerian state. So when you are a government and you reintegrate non-terrorists into the country, what kind of country are you going to be building? So you have situations where the reintegrated terrorists, they take over the indigenous people's community, especially the Christian communities, like in Southern Kaduna, in Jos, in Plateau, in Bafra land. Recently, between December 2024 and today, we've had over hundreds of Christians that were killed in Biafra land by the Fulani terrorists and the reintegrated terrorists wearing Nigerian military and police uniform. This is what the Christians go through in Nigeria over the years. There is no solution. There is no comment from the government. Everybody just turns a deaf ear. And that was part of the reason why the United States of Biafra has declared their independence. Because we cannot continue to live in a country where the government reintegrates non-terrorists into the police, into the military, and send them down to the Biafra territory to kill anyone that talks about Biafra, anyone that talks about their independence. And mostly, all Biafrans are Christians. So that's what's been going on. There's several instances too.
So you are saying, am I understanding you correctly, that the Nigerian federal government is actively aiding the jihad terrorists?
Definitely, by reintegrating non-terrorists into the country.
Do you think that this is a connection to the fact that the former president was a Fulani himself?
Again, over the years, in the past leadership in Nigeria, we have had more of these Islamic leaders that have ruled Nigeria. So if you have been, I know as you are aware, Nigeria is supposed to be a secular state where we have equal representation of both Christians and Muslims. But really, the country is now an Islamic state. It was declared as an Islamic state by Britain without the permission of the Christians. So Nigeria will be dragged into the IOC without the permission of the Christians. So there has been a systemic plan to Islamize the country where we are really right now. So it has been like that, and that is what is really going on, which has led to the loss of life of so many Christians and innocent indigents inside Nigeria.
Yes, thank you. With the leader of your movement in prison and Kanu in prison, what are the real prospects, though, for you being able to establish a genuinely independent state that is free from interference from the Nigerian government and military?
Thank you so much for that question. So we've been following all the allowed laws that guide the establishment of a new nation. We have our geographical area already mapped out. We've been building alliances with countries like the Eritrean government in exile, the Ambazonia government, and several other countries that really recognized Biafra between 1967 and 1970, but never ever surrendered or said they no longer support us. So those alliances have been built, and we are following every step as a nation with the cabinet already set up, following all the due process to ensure that we go through the legal processes for United States of Biafra to be recognized as one of the newest independent nations in the world. So we are going through the allowed legal process by the United Nations, by the African Charter. All that is being put in place at this time to make our country recognized all over the world.
So have you received any positive responses from the UN or from other states, or the United States for that matter?
Again, all that is in process. Just remember, we just declared our independence in November 2024. So our legal department are putting all the right papers in the right table to ensure that those recognitions come. But like I said, we already got a couple of recognitions from some of our allies, and we are the nation was invited during the Donald Trump inauguration. We were in Washington, D.C., of which Nigeria was never invited. And I believe there's several human rights reports about the injustices, the abuse of human rights, the killing of Christians, both by the United Nations, by the African Union, and other bodies. So we are in the process of doing that, and we're getting a lot of positive response in building a very free nation, devoid of jihadism, devoid of persecution, where human rights are respected, where people rights are also respected. So we are in the course of doing that right now.
You know, that's fascinating. Did you say that the Trump administration invited your group to the inauguration and not the Nigerian government?
Yes. Nigerian government was not there, and if you recently Trump has cut off the U.S. aid to Nigeria, about $1.2 billion that they send to Nigeria every year. That has been cut off. It has been stopped because the abuse by the Nigerian government is huge, but at every step, they have used the network they have either in Europe or in France to suppress the freedom of indigenous Nigeria, especially the Biafrans. So even the United, when they arrested the leader Nnamdi Kanu, there was a committee set up by the United Nations to look into the case because Nigerian government planned and they kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria. Nnamdi Kanu has been in DSS dungeon now for almost 5 years, going to 5 years. Even though there was a committee on the arbitrary detention of innocent citizens, that committee of the United Nations sat and they ordered Nigeria to release Nnamdi Kanu and compensate him. Till today, that has not happened. So these human rights abuses is what even in the United Nations Committee on Human Rights 2 years ago, when Nigeria applied to be part of that committee, Nigeria got only about 2 or 3 votes. Countries like Ghana, countries like Kenya are making huge impact in the areas of human rights, in the areas of freedom of their citizens. But Nigeria has been it's just a failed state, has been deteriorating by the second.
Yes, that does seem clear. And it's an excellent sign, really, to get that invitation from Trump, because Trump, of course, has very clearly set out a path since he's become president again of trying to establish a new order in the world, not a new world order, which is what the other people are all about, but try to end some of the madness of the United States giving aid to failed terror states such as the government of Nigeria and the Palestinians and so on, and instead aiding genuine struggles of indigenous peoples for independence. And so I hope that that will be followed through by this administration in terms of genuine support for the struggle of the people of Biafra and aid for them to be able to establish their independence. What do you think of the prospects, however, on a more negative note, unfortunately, of a war starting like the war that took place between 1967 and 70?
Thank you so much, and I thank you for that comment. Where the expectation of Biafrans is we get the support from the United States of America, and again we already see some signs to that, and we are very, very happy at where we are right now. In the area of the war breaking out, or what happened between 1967 and now, I have to let you know that is a different scenario right now. So many things have changed. In the area of the information that the world have right now on what Biafrans went through between 1967 and 1970, there's a lot of awareness right now that's been created by Biafrans all over the world that we all need to go home and develop our nation. Unlike in the past where there is suppression, there's limited information of what is happening inside the Biafra territory. During the 1967 to 1970 war, Nigeria carried out a mass starvation of innocent kids. We are over 3 million, and almost 3 to 5 million innocent Biafrans were starved to death because they didn't have the right information. Some of the countries in the world didn't even know what is happening. So many things have changed. We don't expect that. The killings that are being done by the Nigerian state on a daily basis, even as of 2 days ago, some of the images are so gory, and when you see the pattern of these killings are patterned after jihadism, after the terrorism, because Biafrans are by nature very, it is difficult for Biafrans to spill blood. But what happens is that the delegitimized Nigerian governors that are occupying the Biafra territory in the southeast and south part of Nigeria, working collaboratively with the Nigerian state. They ship all these killers, all these mercenaries into the Biafra land. So the world has more information right now on what is happening in Biafra territory. That is why the way we are going about it right now is definitely going to be different from what obtained between 1967 and 1970.
I certainly hope so. And in conclusion, what would you say to the Christians and other people of goodwill around the world about the struggle of the people of Biafra today?
Thank you so much for that question. Christians in Nigeria are begging to leave. We are begging to leave. People are attacked in their homes with guns, with AK-47, with machetes. People are butchered while they are sleeping. Innocent children are butchered. Women and girls are raped in the bushes. Christians cannot converge and practice their religion securely, safely in Biafra land and in other parts of Nigeria. What I have to say is that we have to be persistent. We have to carve out a country where both Christians and Muslims have the right to exist without anyone killing each other. But what happens in Nigeria is that you have a country where there is an agenda to Islamize the whole country. And this plan is being perpetrated, is being carried out by the Nigerian state. Currently, the Prime Minister of the United States of Bafra is being detained and incarcerated in Finland by the Finnish authority on a very fancy excuse that Simon Ekpa, who is our Prime Minister, is inciting Biafrans. How can you incite people that are just begging to leave? People that are killed by their hundreds every day. And we have our leader, Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. Nigerian government, through their foreign affairs minister, Bianca Ojukwu, has just laid out some truncated charges against our Prime Minister, and Finland arrested him just 2 weeks before we declared our independence. But Biafrans, Muslims who are Christians, we were resolute. We all converged in Finland. We were able to declare our independence despite Finland holding our Prime Minister to truncate that process. So that shows that you cannot just defeat an ideology. We are Christians. We are begging to live. We do not want to live in a country whose policy is to rehabilitate and reintegrate non-terrorists like Boko Haram into the military, into the police. Nothing is secure. So I encourage Biafrans to be resolute. I encourage Christians all over Nigeria to be resolute. We have to stick our ground and ensure that it is okay for self-determination. It is okay for self-defense. These are rights that are guaranteed by the United Nations, by the African Charter. But the Nigerian government, as is currently constituted, is trying to take that freedom away from us. So we are not going to back down. It is our right to choose who is going to be our leader. It is our right to defend our people from the reintegrated terrorists that are coming to kill us. It is our right to go back and develop Biafra land. By the declaration we've done, we are going to go home and practice our religion and not be scared. Just as it happens in near Ebonyi State a few days ago, where people were in the church and they came in and gunned down almost 30 people. Just like that, including innocent children. These children did not commit any crime. Their crime is just to exist in a nation called Nigeria. How long are we going to be forced to live in a country where the president never made any statements to these killers? No remorse. The governor's nothing. All the governor did was do not retaliate. How long are they going to continue to tell us do not retaliate? And we are massacred by the day, by the night. So we are pursuing the course, our freedom to self-defend our land, to self-defend our people, using every legal available means to ensure that our people are not murdered every single day.
Excellently stated, and thank you. I would observe that the government of Finland is acting like Western governments all over Europe as well as North America. They don't have any idea of the jihad. They don't have any idea what they're doing to their own countries by bringing in massive numbers of Muslim migrants they will be facing the same thing that Biafrans are facing today in the future because of their short-sighted actions. And so I applaud you and thank you for calling upon Christians, upon Biafrans, upon all free people to be resolute. This is something that we all need to take to heart and be of good courage. Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, thank you very much for speaking with me, for bringing attention to these all-important issues. And I wish you and the Biafran people all success. May God bless your efforts and prosper them and enable you to establish a strong and independent state that will withstand all pressures from outside. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Robert Spencer, for having me. Thank you so much, and may God bless all of us.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.